You move into the laundry room or you move out, Dad announced at the Thanksgiving table. You get it right, my brother Dion sneered with a smug look. I walked out without a word, but days later Dad panicked. Wait, my name is Naomi J. Caldwell. I am 27 years old, and I had been living with my dad in Kansas City, Missouri for the past 5 years. Most folks would find that arrangement unusual for someone my age, but there was a reason I stayed. Dad had been diagnosed with diabetes and high blood pressure 3 years prior, and his medications were expensive. Seriously expensive. Between his prescriptions, the mortgage, groceries, and everything else, I had been covering the majority of our living expenses while working downtown as a dental hygienist. My brother Dion was 32 and had been living in Denver with his wife Vanessa for the last 8 years. He rarely visited, maybe twice a year if we were lucky, and he never offered financial help, not even once. When Dad first got sick, Dion's response was to send a fruit basket and a card that read, "Get well soon." That was it. No call to ask how treatment was going, no offers to split the medicine costs, nothing. I didn't mind taking care of Dad. Honestly, I didn't. After Mom passed away when I was 19, Dad had been there for me through everything. He helped me through nursing school, encouraged me when I switched to dental hygiene, and never made me feel like a burden. So when he got sick, stepping up felt natural. Felt right. But Dion had different ideas about family responsibility. The trouble started 3 weeks before Thanksgiving when Dion called Dad out of the blue. I was in the kitchen prepping dinner when I heard Dad's voice get excited in the living room. "Dion, what a surprise. How are you?" I couldn't hear Dion's side of the conversation, but I watched Dad's expression shift from happy to worried, and then to something I couldn't quite place. When he hung up, he looked uneasy. "Everything all right?" I asked, bringing him his evening pills with a glass of water. "Dion and Vanessa are having some trouble," Dad said slowly. "Financial trouble." He didn't give me all the details, but it sounds serious. "They might need to move in here for a while. Just temporary though," he said. "Maybe a few months while they get back on their feet." I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. Move in here to this house? Well, yeah. Where else would they go? Dad looked at me with those tired eyes that always made me feel guilty for questioning anything. "He's my son, Naomi. Family helps family. Family helps family." The word stung because I had been helping family for 5 straight years, but apparently that only counted when it was convenient. "Hey," I said quietly. "When are they planning on coming?" "Mid-November, before Thanksgiving probably." That gave us less than 3 weeks. I tried to suppress the anxiety bubbling in my chest. Our house wasn't huge. 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a small kitchen, and a living room. I had the second bedroom, Dad had the master, and the third bedroom had become a storage room years ago. Where exactly were Dion and Vanessa supposed to sleep? The answer came 2 weeks later when Dion's beat-up pickup truck appeared in our driveway on a cold Tuesday afternoon. I had just gotten home from work, still in my scrubs, when I saw them unloading boxes. A lot of boxes. Dion spotted me and waved. "Hey, little sister." Surprise. We got here a few days early. Vanessa was standing next to him, arms crossed, looking at our modest house like it was a prison sentence. She had always been like that. Everything about our family, our house, our city was beneath her. I had learned to ignore it over the years. "Dad didn't mention you were coming today," I said, trying to keep my voice neutral. "Last-minute decision. The landlord in Denver wanted us out by the end of the month, so we figured, why wait?" Dion started hauling boxes toward the front door. "Dad's inside. He's helping us figure out the sleeping arrangements." That phrase set off alarms in my head. Sleeping arrangements. I followed him inside, my heart pounding. Dad stood in the hallway looking stressed. When he saw me, he attempted a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Naomi, good thing you're here. We need to talk about the rooms." "The storage room?" I suggested hopefully. "We could clear it out. It's full of junk and it doesn't have a closet." Vanessa interrupted, wrinkling her nose. "That won't work at all." Dion nodded. "We were thinking since you're just one person, maybe you could take the laundry room. We could put a futon in there or something. It's only temporary after all. Few months tops." I stared at him. "The laundry room? You want me to sleep in the laundry room?" "It's not that small," Dion said defensively. "And like I said, it's temporary." I looked at Dad, waiting for him to say something to defend me. But he just stood there shifting his weight from one foot to the other, avoiding my eyes. What about all my stuff? I asked quietly. My bed, my dresser, my clothes. We can put most of it in storage, Vanessa said curtly as if it was already decided. You don't really need that much space anyway. That night, I barely slept on the futon Dion had set up in the laundry room. The space smelled like detergent and mildew, and every time the water heater kicked on, the whole room hummed. I lay there staring at the ceiling, my clothes hanging on a tension rod Dion had installed over the utility sink. My entire life was compressed into a space that was maybe 107 square feet. The next morning I found Vanessa already in the kitchen making coffee. She had reorganized everything. My favorite mugs were shoved in the back of the cabinet. The coffee maker I bought last year was replaced by an expensive espresso machine they brought from Denver. Good morning, I said, trying to find where she'd moved the bread. Oh, that's in the pantry now. I reorganized. The old system didn't make any sense. She didn't look up from her phone. I found the bread and made myself some toast in silence. Then I gathered my things for work. When I reached for my lunch bag in the fridge, it wasn't there. Did you see a blue lunch bag? I asked. Oh, that old thing. It was taking up space, so I tossed it. Can you just buy lunch today? Vanessa sipped her espresso. Besides, you probably eat out all the time, right? Working at a dental practice. You must make good money. I didn't bother correcting her about my job. That lunch bag was mine and it was falling apart, but it was mine. I'll buy you a new one if it's so important, she said, waving her hand dismissively. I left without another word, my jaw so clenched it hurt. The next few weeks became a masterclass in how to make me feel unwelcome in my own home. Dion and Vanessa took over everything, rearranging the furniture, complaining about the neighborhood, and treating the house like a hotel where I was the inconvenient staff member who was always in the way. Vanessa started making comments about my schedule. You're home a lot for someone who works full-time, she observed one evening while I was making dinner. They don't work long hours at dental offices. I work 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, I replied, stirring the pasta. Pretty standard. Well, Dion is working remotely now. 60 hours a week minimum. That's a real work ethic. I bit my tongue and said nothing. The breaking point came on Thanksgiving Day. I had been looking forward to it because I thought maybe, just maybe, we could have one normal family meal. I had offered to cook the turkey and make my grandmother's stuffing recipe, the one Dad loved. But when I got out of the laundry room that morning, I found Vanessa had already started cooking. She had commandeered the entire kitchen. I'm handling Thanksgiving this year, she announced. No offense, but I have standards. I was going to make Grandma's stuffing, I said quietly. That old recipe? Too much butter. I'm doing a quinoa version, much healthier. Dad walked in and saw my face. Naomi makes wonderful stuffing, he said weakly. Dad, you have diabetes and high blood pressure, Dion interrupted, appearing behind him. Vanessa's way is better for you. You should thank her for caring about your health. I wanted to scream that I had been taking care of Dad's health for 3 years, making sure he took his pills, monitoring his diet, driving him to every doctor's appointment. But I swallowed it. The dinner itself was tense. Vanessa's quinoa stuffing was flavorless, and the turkey was dry, but Dion praised everything like it was a 5-star meal. Dad picked his food, occasionally glancing at me with an apologetic expression I was tired of seeing. After dinner, while I was washing dishes, because of course no one else offered, Dion and Vanessa cornered Dad in the living room. I couldn't hear everything, but I caught fragments. Not just a few months. It makes sense. Already settled in. She's just taking up space. My hands froze in the soapy water. I dried them and walked to the living room entrance. What is going on? Dad looked uncomfortable again. That expression was becoming permanent on his face. Dion and Vanessa were just explaining that their situation in Denver is more complicated than they thought. They might need to stay longer. How much longer? Vanessa said, not even pretending to sound sorry. Until we get things figured out. Which brings us to a related topic. Dion added, looking at Dad instead of me. The house is getting crowded. 3 adults is manageable, but 4 is too much. And let's be honest, Naomi is the only one without a spouse here. It doesn't make sense for her to take up an entire bedroom when she could easily get her own place. I felt like I'd been slapped. This is my home. It's Dad's home, Dion corrected. And he needs to think about what's best for him long term. Vanessa and I plan on staying and helping him. Helping him for real, not just throwing money at the problem. Throwing money at the problem. My voice came out sharper than I intended. Is that what you think I've been doing? We're just saying Dad needs more than financial support. Vanessa chimed in. He needs family around who care about more than paying the bills. Dad finally spoke, but his words cracked something inside me. Naomi, maybe they're right. You're young. You should be building your own life, not spending your 20s taking care of your old father. And Dion and Vanessa are here now. They can help. Help. The word was laughable. They'd been here for 3 weeks and hadn't contributed a single dollar toward groceries, utilities, or anything else. So what are you saying? I asked Dad directly. You want me to leave? No, not leave exactly, he stammered. Just that maybe it's time to think about your future. You could get your own apartment, live your life. Dion nodded enthusiastically. Exactly. Or you could take the laundry room if you really want to stay. We just need a proper bedroom. The words hung in the air like poison. I looked at my father, the man I'd spent the last 5 years caring for, the man whose medical bills I'd paid without complaint, whose medicine I'd picked up every month, whose doctor's appointments I'd rearranged my work schedule to attend, and he was telling me to move into the laundry room or move out. You can move to the laundry room or you can go, Dad finally said, unable to meet my eyes. You get it right, Dion repeated, smiling smugly. He actually smiled like this was some game he'd won. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just walked back to that miserable laundry room. I packed my clothes into the 2 suitcases I'd brought home from college and called my friend Simone Hughes. She'd been telling me for months that I could crash at her place anytime. I'd always laughed it off, never thinking I'd need to take her up on it. Come over, Simone said immediately when I explained the situation. Stay as long as you need. An hour later I was loading my car. Dad came out as I shoved the last suitcase into the trunk. Naomi, you don't have to do this right now. Think about it. We can talk more tomorrow. There's nothing to talk about, I said calmly. You made your decision. Dion and Vanessa need the space more than I do. I get it. It's not like that. It's exactly like that. I slammed the trunk shut. I'll still help with your medication, Dad. I'm not abandoning you, but I won't stay where I'm not wanted. I drove to Simone's apartment downtown, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. Simone had a guest bedroom she'd been using as a storage room, and she helped me clear it out that night. We didn't talk much. She just held me when I finally broke down crying around midnight. The next few days were a blur. I went to work, came back to Simone's, and tried to figure out what to do next. I had been paying for everything at Dad's house, which meant my savings account was pretty meager. I'd need to find my own place eventually, but apartments in Kansas City weren't cheap. On the 4th day after leaving, I got a call from Dad. His voice sounded strange. Naomi, I need your help with something. What is it? I'm trying to refill my prescriptions, but the pharmacy says there's a problem with the payment. They said the card on file was rejected. My stomach tightened. That's my card, Dad. I haven't had a chance to update it with my new address. Can you call them? I need these meds. I'm almost out. Sure, I'll handle it. I hung up and sat on Simone's couch staring at my phone. Then something clicked. A conversation I'd had with Dad years ago, right after his diagnosis, flashed back to me. He had been stressed about the cost of everything until I explained that I would take care of it. But at some point in that conversation he had made an assumption. Thank God for Medicare, he had said. At least that covers most of it. I had started to correct him to explain that Medicare didn't cover everything, and that the supplemental plan and prescriptions were expensive, but he had sounded so relieved that I just let it go. Over time, I realized he had somehow convinced himself that the government covered his healthcare costs. He never asked about the bills, never questioned where the money came from. He just assumed. And Dion and Vanessa definitely assumed it, too. That conversation at Thanksgiving about me throwing money at the problem made it clear. They thought I was only contributing some extra grocery money here and there, not that I was literally paying for their entire life. I called Simone. I need to show you something. I pulled up my bank statements for the past 3 years on my laptop. The numbers were astounding when you looked at them all together. Dad's medications alone cost around $800 a month. Then there was his supplemental insurance premium, another $300. The mortgage payment was $900. Utilities averaged $200. Groceries, gas, household expenses, another $400 minimum. Naomi, Simone sighed, looking at the screen. You've been paying over $2,500 a month, sometimes more. When he needed endocrinologist visits, those were expensive, even with insurance. Does your dad know? Does Dion know? I don't think so. Dad never asked for the bills. He just assumed Medicare covered everything. And Dion has never been involved enough to know. Simone leaned back. So, they kicked you out thinking you were just helping a little, not realizing you were essentially funding their whole lives. What are you going to do? I thought about it for a long moment. The vindictive part of me wanted them to find out the hard way, but the responsible part, the part that still loved my dad despite everything, knew I couldn't just abandon him. I'm going to talk to him, I finally said. But not yet. I'll let them handle things for a few weeks. I'll let them see what it actually costs to take care of Dad. Then we'll have a conversation about expectations and responsibility. Simone smiled. I like this plan. The pharmacy called again the next day and the day after. Each time I told them I was working on the payment issue. By the 7th day, Dad called me 3 times in one day. Naomi, I really need those medications. The pharmacy says they can't fill them without payment. I know, Dad. I'm sorting it out. Can't you just call them with your card number? It's not that simple. There are a few things I need to take care of first. He sounded frustrated. I don't understand why this is so complicated. Can't Dion just pay for it and you reimburse him? There it was. The assumption that these medicines cost maybe $50 or $100, not the $800 they actually cost. Sure, Dad. Have Dion call the pharmacy and put his card down. Dion called me 2 hours later and his voice held none of the arrogant confidence he'd had on Thanksgiving. Naomi, what the hell? The pharmacy just quoted me $800 for Dad's meds. That can't be right. I kept my voice steady. That's the monthly cost. Sometimes it's more depending on what the doctor prescribes. $800? Are you serious? I thought Medicare covered this stuff. Medicare Part B covers some things. The supplemental plan covers more. But there are still copays and drugs that aren't fully covered. Just the diabetes medications are expensive. How long have you been paying this? Every month for the last 3 years. Silence on the other end. I could practically hear the calculations running through his head. That's like almost $10,000 a year just for medication. More actually when you include the doctor's visits and the supplemental insurance premium. More silence. Then why didn't you tell us? Why didn't Dad tell us? Dad doesn't know the real numbers. He thinks Medicare handles everything. I never corrected him. Why? What was the point? The bills had to be paid regardless of who knew. Well, we can't afford $800 right now. We just moved across the country. We have expenses. Then I guess you'll have to figure out a solution, I said calmly. Maybe talk to Dad about applying for assistance programs, or look into cheaper generic alternatives. The pharmacist can help with that. Naomi, come on. You can't just stop paying this. He needs these meds. I'm not stopping permanently. I'm just taking a break while you and Vanessa take care of things. You said you were there to help him. This is helping. That's not what I meant and you know it. Then what did you mean, Dion, when you said you were there to help for real, not just to throw money at the problem? What exactly did you think helping was? He didn't have an answer for that. I hung up and immediately felt a rush of guilt. But Simone, who had been listening to the whole conversation, shook her head. Don't you dare feel bad. They literally kicked you out of your house. They can handle Dad's bills for a few weeks. She was right. But that didn't make the guilt disappear. I couldn't sleep that night. I kept picturing Dad without his blood pressure medication, his glucose levels spiking, ending up in the emergency room. By 3 a.m., I had convinced myself I was being cruel. But then my phone buzzed with a message from Vanessa. This is ridiculous. Your father's health is on the line and you're playing games. Grow up. The guilt evaporated. I turned my phone off and went to sleep. The next morning, I got a call from Dad's doctor's office. They needed to confirm his appointment for the following week and verify insurance information. I had always handled his appointments, keeping everything organized in a folder I'd left at the house. I'm no longer managing his care. I told the receptionist. You'll need to speak to Dion or Vanessa. Okay. Do you have their contact information? I gave them Dion's number and hung up. An hour later, Dion texted me. Why is Dad's doctor calling me? Where is his insurance card? Where are his medical records? I didn't reply. 2 days later, the mortgage payment bounced. I had been paying it directly from my account via an automatic debit, but I had canceled it the day after I moved out. The bank called Dad, who called me in a panic. Naomi, the bank says the mortgage payment didn't process. There must be some mistake. It's not a mistake, Dad. I canceled the auto pay. Why would you do that? The house could go into foreclosure. Then Dion and Vanessa should make the payment. It's $900 due on the 1st of the month. I thought it was less than that. It's been $900 for years, Dad. I've been paying it every month. His silence was deafening. Finally, he said softly, "How much have you been paying in total for everything? The mortgage, the medication, everything?" I took a deep breath. Around $2,500 to $3,000 a month, depending on the month. More when you had specialist appointments or needed extra medications. $2,500. His voice faded. Naomi, I didn't know. I thought Medicare covered most of it. I thought you were just helping with groceries and utilities. I know you thought that, Dad. I didn't correct you because you were stressed enough being sick. I thought it didn't matter as long as the bills were paid, but that's for the last 3 years. That's about $90,000 give or take. He didn't say anything for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was shaky. I need to talk to Dion. Good idea, I said and hung up. Simone came home from work that evening and found me stressed eating ice cream on her couch. Tough day. I told Dad how much I've really been paying. I think he's in shock. Good. He should be. Simone grabbed a spoon and joined me. What do you think Dion will do? Probably panic. He and Vanessa have been living beyond their means for years. That's why they had to move back. There's no way they can afford to cover all of it. So what's your endgame here? Just curious. I thought about it. Honestly, I want them to understand what I've been doing. I want them to appreciate that I wasn't just throwing money at a problem. I was sacrificing my own future, my own savings, my own life to care for Dad. And I want an apology for being treated like I was the burden. Fair. Do you think you'll get it? Probably not from Dion. Maybe from Dad. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. No calls, no texts, nothing. I started to worry that something had happened. The Dad had ended up in the hospital or worse. But I forced myself to wait. They had asked for this. They wanted me to step aside so they could handle things. On the 12th day after I left, Vanessa showed up at Simone's apartment. I saw her through the peephole, arms crossed, face furious. I almost didn't open the door. "We need to talk," she said when I finally let her in. "About what?" "About the fact that you've left your father high and dry. About the fact that his utilities are about to be cut off because apparently you were paying those too. About the fact that he's nearly out of medication and Dion and I don't have $800 lying around right now." I gestured for Vanessa to sit, but she remained standing, arms tightly crossed over her chest. Simone had quietly gone into her room to give us privacy, though I knew she was listening. "You're right," I said calmly. "I paid the utilities, the medications, the mortgage, the groceries, and pretty much everything else." "Well, you can't just stop doing that. That's abandonment." "It is because from my perspective I was abandoned. I was kicked out of my home so you two could have a comfortable bedroom. I was told to sleep in the laundry room or leave. Those were my options. Remember?" Vanessa's face flushed. "That was different. We needed the space and I needed a home, but nobody seemed to care about that. You're being dramatic. We didn't kick you out. We just suggested you might be more comfortable somewhere else. You threw away my lunch bag. You took over my bedroom. You treated me like hired help that was in the way. And when I finally left, no one stopped me. No one said, 'Wait, we need to talk about this.' No one apologized." My voice was rising now. All the anger I'd been suppressing for weeks coming to the surface. "You wanted me gone, so I left. Now it's your turn to take care of everything I was taking care of. Your father could die without his medication. Then you better figure out how to pay for it. We don't have that kind of money right now. We're still recovering from Denver. And I don't have that kind of money either. I've spent $90,000 in 3 years taking care of Dad. My savings are gone. I'm 27 years old with almost nothing in my bank account because I prioritized his health over my own future. I can't afford to keep doing this." Vanessa's expression shifted slightly. $90,000 give or take. "Want to see the Bank statements? She sat down heavily on Simone's couch. Then Dion said it was expensive, but I didn't realize. Nobody realized that was the problem. Everyone assumed I was just chipping in a little here and there. You had no idea what it actually cost to keep Dad healthy and the house running. And instead of being grateful, you treated me like I was the problem. What do you want from us? Vanessa finally asked. I want an apology. I want an acknowledgement of what I did. And I want to know that if I ever come back to help, things will be different. Come back? You would move back maybe if I'm treated with respect, if my contributions are acknowledged, if I get my bedroom back. I paused. But honestly, Vanessa, I don't think that's going to happen. I think you and Dion are going to resent me even more now that you know the truth. She didn't deny it. That told me everything I needed to know. After Vanessa left, Simone came out of her room. You handled that well. I feel like I just made everything worse. You set boundaries. That's healthy. That night Dad called. His voice sounded older, somehow tired in a way I'd never heard before. Naomi, I need to apologize. Okay. I had no idea how much you've been doing. No idea what you've been paying. Dion showed me some numbers and I couldn't believe it. All this time I thought Medicare was covering things. I thought you were just helping out a little. I know you thought that, Dad. Why didn't you tell me? Because you were stressed enough being sick. I didn't want to add financial stress to it. I thought I was helping by quietly taking care of things. You were helping. You've been saving my life, Naomi, literally. And I repaid you. His voice broke. By choosing Dion over you, by letting them push you out. I am so sorry. The apology should have felt better than it did. Instead, I just felt tired. What are you going to do, Dad? About the bills, the meds, everything. Dion and I had a long conversation. A really long conversation. He's going to take over the mortgage payment. Vanessa is going to start paying for groceries. They'll contribute while they live here. That's good. But the medication, the insurance, the doctor bills, Naomi, that's more than they can handle right now. They're already stretched thin. I've talked to my doctor about cheaper alternatives and we're working on that. I've also applied for some assistance programs, but in the meantime, will you keep paying for the medication? Just until we get the assistance program sorted out. I know I have no right to ask. I know I don't deserve your help after what I did. I closed my eyes. This was the moment I'd been dreading. The moment I had to choose between standing my ground and caring for my father. I will pay for this month's medication. I finally said, just this month. After that, you need to have a plan. The assistance programs, cheaper alternatives, whatever it takes. I can't keep draining my savings, Dad. I need to think about my own future. I understand. Thank you, Naomi. Thank you so much. But Dad, I'm not moving back. Not right now. Maybe never. I need space from all of this. I understand that too. I don't blame you. After hanging up, I sat on Simone's couch and cried. Not exactly out of sadness, but from the sheer emotional exhaustion of it all. Simone sat beside me and didn't say a word. She just passed me tissues and let me cry. The next morning, I called the pharmacy and paid for Dad's medication. $47 that I really couldn't afford but couldn't not pay. When I checked my bank balance afterward, I had less than $2,000 left in savings. 3 years of work, 3 years of sacrifice, and this was where I had ended up. But something shifted in me that day. I realized I couldn't keep living like this. I couldn't keep putting everyone else first at the expense of my own well-being. I started looking for a second job, something I could do on weekends to rebuild my savings. I also started looking for my own apartment, something small and affordable that was truly mine. Simone found me searching apartment listings that evening. Are you sure about this? You can stay here as long as you need. I know, and I'm grateful, but I need my own space. I need to build my own life separate from all the drama with my family. Good for you. You deserve it. 2 weeks later, I found a studio apartment downtown, not far from Simone's place. It was tiny, but clean with wood floors and good natural light. The rent was manageable, especially with the weekend job I'd picked up doing administrative work for a catering company. Moving into my own place felt like starting over. I didn't have much furniture, just a bed, a small table, and some basic kitchen supplies. But it was mine. No one could tell me to move into the laundry room. No one could throw away my things or rearrange my space. For the first time in weeks, I could breathe. Dad called a few days after I moved in. Naomi, I got approved for one of the assistance programs. It's going to cover about 60% of my medication costs. That's great, Dad. It is. And Dion and Vanessa have been contributing to the household expenses like they promised. Things are better. I'm glad. Will you come over for dinner sometime? I'd like to see your new place. Maybe. I need a little more time. He accepted that without arguing, which surprised me. Maybe he was finally starting to understand the damage that had been done. But understanding didn't mean things were fixed. A week later, I got a call from Vanessa. We need to talk about Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving. That's months away. I'm planning ahead. I want to make sure we're all on the same page. We'd like you to come. Obviously, it would mean a lot to your father. I'll think about it. Also, we're going to need help with the cost of the food. Dion and I are still recovering financially. If you could contribute maybe $200 or $300 toward the meal, that would help. I nearly laughed out loud. No. What? But you always help with family expenses. I'm not the family cash machine anymore. Remember, you made that pretty clear. Don't be ridiculous. Of course you're family. Family doesn't get kicked out of their home, Vanessa. Family doesn't get told to sleep in the laundry room. Family doesn't have their contributions ignored and dismissed. My voice was icy. Now you want to host Thanksgiving? Great. You pay for it. I hung up before she could respond. Simone found me pacing my apartment afterward. What happened? Vanessa wanted me to pay for Thanksgiving dinner. Can you believe the nerve of asking me for money after everything? What did you tell her? I told her no emphatically. Simone smiled. Good. You're learning. But the calls didn't stop. Over the next month, I received requests for help with various expenses. The water heater needed replacing. Could I contribute? The car needed new tires. Could I help? Dad needed to see a specialist. Could I cover the COI? Each time I said no. Each time it got a little easier. Then something unexpected happened. Dion showed up at my apartment one Saturday morning looking worn down and defeated. Can I come in? I almost said no, but something in his expression stopped me. He looked genuinely distressed. Not angry or entitled, just tired. Fine, but I have plans in an hour, so keep it brief. He sat down at my small kitchen table and put his head in his hands. Vanessa left. She left. What? She went back to Denver 3 days ago, said she couldn't handle living at Dad's anymore. Couldn't handle Kansas City? Couldn't handle being broke? She's filing for divorce. I sat across from him, stunned. Are you serious? Dead serious. Said I could stay and deal with Dad on my own. Dion, I'm sorry. Don't be. She was right to leave. This whole thing has been a mess since the beginning. He looked up at me and I saw something I had never seen on my brother's face before. Humility. I messed up Naomi big time. I thought moving back here would be easy. I thought Dad didn't need much help. I thought you were being dramatic about the bills and the expenses. I had no idea. And now I do. Now I do. And I'm drowning. The mortgage alone is killing me. And I'm still just freelancing. I can't afford to keep living there. But I can't afford to leave either. What do you want from me, Dion? Nothing. I'm not here to ask for money or help. I'm here to apologize. Really apologize. Not just say the words. What Vanessa and I did to you was wrong. Kicking you out, taking your room, dismissing everything you had done for Dad. All of it was wrong and I'm sorry. The apology hung in the air between us. Part of me wanted to throw it back in his face, tell him it was too little, too late. But another part of me, the part that remembered when we were kids and actually got along, wanted to believe he meant it. Thank you, I said. Finally. I appreciate that. I'm moving out, he continued. I found a cheap room to rent on the other side of town. Dad isn't happy about it, but I can't keep living there. I'll still help him where I can, but I need to figure out my own life first. That's probably smart. Yeah. He stood to leave, then stopped at the door. For what it's worth, you were a better daughter to Dad than I ever was. You were present when it mattered. After he left, I sat in my quiet apartment and processed everything. Vanessa was gone. Dawn was moving out. Dad was essentially alone again. And somehow I didn't feel guilty about any of it. That night Dad called. Dion told you what happened. I'm going to be alone again. Dion moves out next week. I know. I was thinking maybe you could move back. I know it's a lot to ask, but no, Dad. No, I'm not moving back. I have my own place now, my own life, and I like it. But I need help. I can't handle everything on my own. Then hire help. There are services that assist seniors with daily tasks, medication management, all of that. You can afford it now that you're not supporting 2 extra adults. That's not the same as family. Maybe not. But family is supposed to be a two-way street. Dad, it's not supposed to be one person sacrificing everything while everyone else takes and takes. I'm done sacrificing. I'm 27 years old and I need to start living for myself. His silence was long and awkward. I understand, he finally said. I don't like it, but I understand. 6 months after that conversation, I was thriving. The second job with the catering company had turned into a full-time office manager opportunity, which paid significantly more than my dental hygienist position. I kept both jobs, working some evening and weekend shifts at the dental clinic because I actually enjoyed it. But the financial security of 2 incomes changed everything. My savings account, which had been nearly empty, began to rebuild. I bought real furniture for my apartment. I treated myself to things I denied myself for years, like decent clothes and an occasional dinner out with Simone. For the first time since Mom died, I felt like I was living my own life instead of existing in service to someone else's needs. Dad and I talked occasionally, brief phone calls where he updated me on his health, and I offered polite responses. He had sorted out the assistance programs, found cheaper medication alternatives, and hired a part-time aide, Miss Jackson, who helped him with groceries and household tasks. He was managing, though he made sure I knew it wasn't easy. Dion had in fact moved out and was slowly rebuilding his life. His divorce from Vanessa was underway, though not amicable. He'd found stable freelance work as a graphic designer, and seemed genuinely humbled by the whole experience. We had grabbed coffee a couple of times, clumsy attempts to rebuild some kind of sibling relationship, but we weren't close. The damage was too deep. Then one Tuesday in February, I got a call from an unfamiliar number. Is this Naomi Caldwell? Yes. Who's speaking? This is Ms. Jackson from Community Health Services. I'm the aide assigned to help your father. I'm calling because I'm concerned about some things I've observed during my visits. My stomach tightened. What kind of things? Your father has mentioned several times that you abandoned him, that you refused to help him despite being financially able. He's told me you are selfish and have left him struggling while you live comfortably. I normally wouldn't get involved in family matters, but I thought you should know what he's been saying. Heat rushed to my face. He said I abandoned him several times. He seems quite bitter about it. Did he mention that he kicked me out of the house to make room for my brother and sister-in-law, or that I paid nearly all his expenses for 3 years before that happened? Miss Jackson was silent for a moment. No, he didn't mention any of that. Of course not. I took a deep breath. Thank you for calling, Miss Jackson. I appreciate you letting me know. After hanging up, I stared at my phone, anger building in my chest. Dad was telling people I abandoned him. He was painting himself as the victim and me as the villain, conveniently leaving out every detail that made him look bad. I called Dion. Have you talked to Dad lately? Yeah, last week. Why? Has he been complaining about me to you? Dion hesitated. He has mentioned that he wishes you were more involved, that he feels like you've cut him out. He's telling his home health aide that I abandoned him, that I'm selfish and refused to help. Dion, I gave him 3 years of my life. 3 years and $90,000. I put my own future on hold to care for him, and this is how he repays me. My voice was trembling. What are you going to do? I don't know yet, but I am done protecting his feelings. That weekend, I drafted a detailed email. I included scanned bank statements showing every payment I had made over the last 3 years. Mortgage payments, utility bills, medication receipts, insurance premiums, everything. I wrote a timeline of events from the day Dion and Vanessa moved in to the day I left. I included Vanessa's texts calling me ridiculous for not paying Dad's meds right away. Then I sent it to Dad, to Dion, and to a few family members whom Dad had apparently been complaining to about my supposed abandonment. Aunts, uncles, cousins who had been listening to his one-sided version of the story. The email subject line read, "Setting the record straight." The email was clinical and factual. No emotional appeals, no dramatics, just dates, amounts, and receipts. The numbers spoke for themselves. The replies started pouring in within hours. My Aunt Patrice called first. Naomi, I had no idea. Your father made it sound like you just stopped caring about him. I'm sure he did. These numbers, honey, this is unbelievable. You've been supporting him this entire time. I was until I couldn't be anymore. I am so sorry. We've been feeling bad for him, and all the while you were the one being taken advantage of. More calls and emails followed. Family members who had heard Dad's version were shocked by the reality. Some apologized for believing him without questioning. Others just expressed disbelief at the amounts I had been paying. Dad didn't call. Not that day or the next. But a week later I got a text from him. We need to talk in person. I waited 2 days before replying. Fine. Simone's coffee shop on Main Street Saturday at 2 p.m. Saturday arrived cold and gray. Typical Kansas City February weather. I got to the coffee shop 15 minutes early and claimed a table in the corner where I could see the door. My stomach was in knots, but I had rehearsed this conversation a dozen times in my head. I knew what I wanted to say. Dad walked in exactly at 2 p.m. looking older than I remembered. The last few months had aged him. He spotted me and walked slowly over, leaning heavily on his cane. Thanks for meeting me, he said, sitting down across from me. You said we needed to talk, so talk. He winced at my tone. That email you sent, it was unnecessary, don't you think? Because what I hear is that you've been telling everyone who would listen that I abandoned you. That seems pretty unnecessary too. I was venting. I was hurt. You were lying. I leaned forward. You left out every detail that made you look bad. You didn't mention kicking me out. You didn't mention the money I'd spent. You just painted yourself as a poor abandoned father and me as the selfish daughter. Did you really think I'd let you do that? I didn't think you would air our private family business to everyone. It stopped being private when you started spreading lies about me. You made this public. Dad, I just corrected the record. He was quiet for a moment, stirring his coffee without drinking it. He was angry. You have to understand my perspective. You just left. You stopped helping. I felt abandoned. You told me to move into the laundry room or move out. Those were my only options. What did you expect me to do? I expected you to understand that we were family, that we work problems out together. Like how you, Dion, and Vanessa worked out the problem of me being in the way by kicking me out. We didn't kick you out. We just needed the space. Dad, stop. I set my coffee cup down harder than I intended. Stop rewriting history. You chose them over me. You let them take my bedroom, my space, my home. And when I left, none of you tried to stop me. All of you looked relieved that I was gone. That's not true, isn't it? Tell me honestly. When I loaded my car and drove away, were you sad or were you relieved the awkward situation had resolved itself? He didn't answer, which was answer enough. This is what I don't understand, I continued. I spent 3 years taking care of you. I sacrificed my savings, my social life, my own future to make sure you were okay. And the moment your favorite son showed up needing something, you discarded me like I was nothing. Like those 3 years meant nothing. They did mean something. You meant something. Not enough, apparently. Dad's hands were trembling as he wrapped them around his coffee mug. What do you want from me, Naomi? An apology. Fine. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything. I don't want that apology. I wanted one 3 months ago when it might have mattered. Now, I just want you to understand what you did and stop playing the victim. I do understand. That email made everything very clear. You've been more than generous. Generous? I almost laughed. That's what we're calling it now. Not sacrifice, not dedication, just generosity. Like I was doing you a favor instead of acting like your daughter. What do you want me to say? I want you to admit you took me for granted. I want you to admit you treated me like I was expendable while treating Dion like he was precious. I want you to admit you failed me as a father. The words hung heavy between us. Dad's face crumpled and for a moment I thought he might cry. You're right, he said in a low voice. I took you for granted. I treated Dion differently. I've always treated him differently. Why? Because he needed it more. He was always struggling, always needing help. You were always so capable, so centered. You didn't seem to need anything from me. Everyone needs their father, Dad. Even capable daughters. Maybe especially capable daughters who keep carrying everyone else's weight. I see it now. I truly do. Or are you just saying what you think I want to hear? He looked me right in the eye. I see it now and I'm ashamed. You deserved better from me. You deserved better than being treated like the family ATM. You deserved better than being kicked out of your home. You deserved a father who appreciated you instead of taking advantage of you. It was the most honest thing he had said in years, maybe ever. Thank you for saying that. Does it change anything? It doesn't change what happened, but it means something that you can finally see it. We can start over, build something better, maybe in time, but not right now. I need more time. And I need you to understand that our relationship from here on out will be very different. I'm not your caregiver anymore. I'm not your financial support. I am your daughter, and that's all I can be right now. I truly understand, because understanding means not calling me when the bills are tight. Understanding means not making me feel guilty for not visiting enough. Understanding means letting me live my own life without making me feel bad about it. Yes, I understand. We finished our coffee in an awkward silence, but it felt like something had shifted. Not fixed, maybe never completely fixed, but changed towards something more honest. As I drove home, I felt lighter somehow. The anger I had been carrying for months had loosened its grip. I had said what I needed to say, and Dad had actually listened. That was more than I expected. Life moved on. Spring came to Kansas City, bringing warmer weather and new possibilities. The catering company promoted me to operations manager, which came with a significant raise. I kept both jobs, working some evening and weekend shifts at the dental clinic, because I genuinely enjoyed it. But the financial security of two incomes changed everything. My savings account, which had been almost empty, began to rebuild. I bought real furniture for my apartment. I treated myself to things I denied myself for years, like decent clothes and an occasional dinner with Simone. For the first time since Mom died, I felt like I was living my own life instead of existing to serve someone else's needs. Dad and I talked once a week, brief calls where we kept things superficial. He had stopped complaining about his situation and stopped asking for money. Progress, even if it was small. Dion had slowly become a better brother. Not perfect, but better. He had learned from his mistakes with Vanessa. He was seeing a therapist and working on himself. We weren't close, but we were cordial and occasionally grabbed lunch and had real conversations. The damage was too deep to fully repair, but we found a new footing. Then one day in June, I got a call from Aunt Patrice. Naomi, I wanted to tell you something. Your father has been telling people what really happened, about how much you did for him, how you supported him for years, how badly he treated you. Seriously? Yes. He's not making excuses anymore. He's being honest about his mistakes. I thought you'd want to know. After hanging up, I sat with that information for a while. Dad was finally telling the truth. Not to get me back, not to look better, just because it was the truth. A week later he called. Will you come over for dinner? I'm making stew, your favorite. Just you and me. No ambushes, no guilt trips, just dinner with your old man. I went. The house looked different without all of Dion and Vanessa's clutter. Dad had cleaned it up, made it feel more like a home again. My old bedroom had been converted into a guest room, neutral and impersonal. Dinner was good. We talked about safe topics at first. My jobs, his health, the weather. Then, as we were clearing the table, Dad said something unexpected. I've been thinking about selling the house. It really is too big for just me. Too many memories, too much maintenance. I found a nice senior apartment complex across town. One bedroom, all on one floor, much easier to manage. I think it's time. That sounds like a good idea. The equity from the house will help me be more financially stable. I won't need to rely on anyone. He paused. I won't need to take advantage of my daughter's generosity anymore. Dad, let me finish. I've been selfish for years, not just to you but to myself. I've been making excuses instead of making changes. That ends now. I'm taking responsibility for my own life. I felt tears prickling in my eyes. I'm proud of you. I should be saying that to you. You've done an incredible thing with your life despite everything. You are stronger than I ever was. We hugged then. A real hug for the first time in almost a year. 6 months later, I was standing in the living room of my new apartment. Not the studio, but a real one-bedroom with a balcony and enough space to entertain. Simone was helping me hang pictures on the walls. This place is perfect, she said, stepping back to admire our work. Really is. My phone buzzed with a message from Dad, who was already settled into his new senior apartment. It's perfect. Thanks for helping me pick it out. I had accompanied him on visits to senior living options, offering advice, but letting him make the final decision. Our relationship had evolved into something healthier with boundaries but warm. Dion texted our sibling chat. Dinner this weekend, my treat. Want to celebrate your promotion? The catering company had made me a partner, giving me a stake in the business and a path to opening my own branch someday. I looked around my apartment, the life I had built from the ground up after losing everything. The furniture I had saved for, the degree I was working toward, the career that was finally taking off. None of it would have happened if I had stayed in that house. If I had remained in that role of the sacrificing daughter who gave everything and got nothing. Being kicked out had been the best thing that ever happened to me. Dawn finally found stable work and began contributing to Dad's care in meaningful ways. Vanessa got remarried in Denver, and from what I heard was someone else's problem now. Dad was thriving in his senior apartment, making friends and finally taking responsibility for his own well-being. As for me, I learned that setting boundaries wasn't selfish, that walking away from toxicity wasn't abandonment, and that sometimes the greatest act of love is loving yourself enough to leave. I had spent years being the good daughter, and where had that gotten me? Kicked out and broke. Now I was the daughter who chose herself, and I had never been happier.